Hello friends, Tanya here with another fun video. I am doing day 2 of the Spellbinders 2024 Crafty Advent Calendar. Let's go ahead and open door number 2. And you can't see it here, but on the back of every door is a picture of what's inside. We have a clear stamp set with a cluster of flowers and a sentiment that says, let me pull out my card so I can read it. My screen is way too tiny. It just says, hello, friend. I have some white cardstock here that I have stamped our image with an alcohol-friendly marker, or sorry, alcohol-friendly stamp pad. It is the Distress. No. Man, I can't talk today. It is the Hero Arts Intense Black ink. That is an alcohol-friendly ink. And I'm using my Copic markers. You could absolutely use any brand that you own. And you can see that my darker aqua marker was totally dry. I kind of like the effect that gave, but I do believe I'm going to end up replacing that marker because I've refilled it a few times and it dries out very quickly. So it must have a incorrect seal on the cap. One marker out of how many? Not a big deal. I'll just replace it. Next, I'm using this very vibrant pink. Well, it's a vibrant pink, but in a pale and a medium tone on the second flower here. This time, while coloring, I start with the light color and then come back with the dark shading. And I do leave that pretty sharply contrasted just because I was trying that style for once. Usually I blend things pretty smoothly, but I thought I would give it a try with some high contrast blending. Some people make it work fantastic, and yeah, sometimes we need to expand our style, try some new things, see if it fits with how we like to do things. I have a pink, a blue, and a yellow, very primary colors here. And then I'm moving in with some greens for the leaves. I did stick to one single 2-color blend of green for all of the greenery. And I'm just going through and quickly using the light color first to fill each of the leaves. And then I'll go back with the darker green for the highlights. Here I had a little Copic markers often will, if there's a pressure change or a big temperature change, you can get just like a blob or an unexpectedly large release of ink. And the way to solve that is to take both caps off, and that equalizes the pressure inside your marker so you aren't getting any marker burps on your cardstock. If you wanted to get even more detailed, you could use different greens for the different types of leaves. And there are 2 different types of leaves here. Some broader leaves under the actual large flowers and some branches of leaves that you would maybe put in as filler. Now I have some gold metallic ink. This happens to be from Hero Arts. I don't know if it's available. They just had the big merger with Spellbinders. And not everything that they carry is listed yet on the website at Hero Arts again, just because they're working through that transition. So I'll have to check back again later. I love that gold highlight. You could try the Yasutomo gold watercolor paint or whatever watercolor gold paint you have in your stash. Now I've carefully made sure that this lines back up, and I'm going to stamp over this with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink to sharpen up those edges. I really like to do a second stamping after I do some coloring. Now I used my brother's ScanNCut to cut those out. There is not a coordinating die. I will show you how I use that in a little bit. Next, I'm using some gold pigment ink to stamp the sentiment on some light blue cardstock. I'm stamping it 2 or 3 times because I want a good solid ink coverage, because we're going to use some brass embossing powder. This happens to be the Hero Arts, and I put that over the gold ink, and that really helps to get a nice solid image. I'm heating that with my heat tool, and we get this beautiful shiny sentiment. Now here is my kind of shaky video of how I use my Brother ScanNCut. So I'm loading my, I'm turning it on, and what we're going to do is load our sheet here. This is a self-adhesive mat that is specific to this Brother ScanNCut. I'm going to load that mat with my images stuck to the mat. Next, we're going to scan our die cut, and we're going to die cut. We're going to save it on our machine. I'm only doing half of that sheet, so we're doing 12 by 6. It's going to scan our image now. It goes in and out and scans the image for us. And then it'll come up with a preview. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to make the area it's going to work with very much smaller, because it picks up all of those cuts in the mat from previous usage. So I want to make the area we're working with much smaller. Once I'm happy with the area I've chosen, this touch screen makes it super easy. I hit preview and I say OK. And now we're going to add our little bit of extra space around the image. We're going to delete anything we don't want to die cut or to cut. And I had that swatched area that I didn't want to cut. I'm making sure that the 2 areas are exactly all that's left on there. Now we're going to go OK, and we're going to select what we want to do. You can do several different things. I want to cut, so I hit cut and start, and the machine is now testing the depth of the paper. So it's going to the known area on the mat, and then it's testing on the cardstock, and then it will start cutting. It'll determine how much pressure it needs to apply to do the cut. And it takes about a minute or less to die cut, or sorry, not die cut, to cut around each of these images. And you can see that this is not the same image that I colored at the beginning of this video. This is actually the stamp from last year's Crafty Advent Calendar. And it's a little bit similar. You could actually use these two together if you wanted. But I had already used my Brother ScanNCut to cut out the image for these flowers. So, you know, the process is the same. So now I'm going to pull these off of the mat. The best way to do this is to bend the mat away from the paper. And I only have one hand at this moment because I'm holding the camera or my phone with the other. So it's making this a little bit more of a struggle bus. I could have unloaded the mat, but I want to make additional cuts using the same scanned image. So I don't want to remove the mat. We're going to use the same saved file. I put down a new piece of paper. We're going to cut again. So I'm going to press select to cut. It's thinking. Then we'll go ahead and start again. And it will cut exactly the same 2 portions that I had it programmed to do earlier. Now this is all in real time. I haven't sped up the ScanNCut section of this video at all. So this is real time. This is how long it takes me to do some ScanNCutting of images. It's pretty fast. The learning curve, like anything, there's a learning curve to use this, but it's really not difficult. There are lots of videos out there on how to use your ScanNCut. I watched a few of them, but what really worked for me was just playing with it. You can even use this with pattern paper if there's some very clearly defined areas that you want to die cut. Or sorry, not die cut. I keep saying die cut, but this is definitely an electronic or computerized cutter. Now that I have all of the layers that I want, I unloaded the mat And now you can see how it's much easier to bend the mat away from the paper to get that off. There is a weeding tool that comes with the Brother ScanNCut. However, one of my grandchildren was playing with it and I haven't seen it since. Here I'm showing you how well that those two cuts work together. It's absolutely perfect. These are not identical, but the pieces that I cut under it are. Now it's time to start constructing our card. I have the 5x7 Matting Basics, the largest from set B, and we have the Floral Expressions. This was the 3D embossing folder from August of 2024, and it is stunning. This is one of my favorite embossing folders of the year. I also have my Pearl Lustre Gilding Polish here. We're going to use that to highlight the pattern without being too outrageous. This will just make it a little shiny on the raised edges and really make that pattern stand out. And it's clusters of tiny little 5-petal flowers, leaves, and like peonies or roses. I think it looks more like peonies. It's very similar to the fluffier flower in this bunch. Next, we're going to take the Make-A-Wish arch labels, and we're taking one of the smaller, we're taking the smallest one, which happens to be the tag, and we're going to die cut our sentiment. There is a hole in the top, so you could put something through that. And I used brushed white cardstock to cut the next larger size that has the scoring in the edges. I love that detail. I added an extra piece of cardstock behind our sentiment portion just to give it a little extra depth. And then we're going to glue that to the brushed cardstock piece. I'm also going to take some extra pieces of cardstock and adhere those to the back of this panel that we die cut first and then embossed, and adhere this to a 5x7 white heavyweight cardstock card base. Next, we're going to adhere that tag piece or the arch piece to the front of the card. It's fairly centered in the middle. And I don't even feel bad that this center image is so small in comparison to the card, because that embossing detail from the embossing folder, I don't want to hide it. I really want it to be a major component of the front of this card. There's extra cardstock behind that brushed white cardstock layer also because, dimension. I'm using my T-square ruler to make sure I did adhere that straight. And now we'll take our layered element that we colored earlier, add strategic placement of some extra cardstock pieces, and adhere that to the front of the card. I think that turned out gorgeous. We do have a little bit of extra cardstock left from our, did I cut that off? Anyway, I have a small piece that I embossed and use the Pearl Lustre on, and it is just under 5 inches long, so it fits inside the card beautifully, and it's about 1.5 inches wide. I took our second floral and adhered that to the inside. And that completes day number 2 of the Crafty Advent Calendar. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give this a like and subscribe if you haven't done that. Check that description box below for the list of all of the things that I created today. Check that visual list. It will be the most complete. And until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.